Hey, you know what time it is. This is the heart to heart journey to Unconditional Love podcast. I am the late bloomer with my host, Harlan Brown. Say what's up, Harlan Brown.
What's up, everybody? And
Hey, we got a jam packed podcast for you today. So we're gonna get right to it. We were talking about, I know we left off, I didn't want to leave off, but we were talking about the healing process and finding a way to your relationships, and we're still on mind your business. I didn't know it was going to take this long, but I'm glad it is because we're getting some really good information and really good things out there. And in that healing process, have you worked on the homework assignment that we talked about last week, Harlan Brown?
oh, of course, I worked on that. I had to put myself through the process. I can't just tell it and not put myself through the process. So yes, I did.
Okay, well, good. Because so the things that I think the main thing with the healing process, we were talking about love yourself, forgive yourself, give yourself grace and mercy, grace and mercy, because you have to do that. But the main thing about mind your business and that healing process and getting your changing your mind and changing your thought is being honest and truthful with yourself. So I wanted
Right.
to expand on that a little bit today, to just kind of get the audience, back in and excited about learning and wanting to be better in their relationships and understand themselves so that they can be a better person for not only themselves but for the person that they choose to be their life partner. So one of the things that I talked about, and I'm looking at my notes, which is crazy, is I think when we're talking about that healing process, when we're talking about the changing your mind, changing your thoughts, and looking in the mirror, I want to kind of go back into these three things about the relationships and yourself when you're trying to come there, and that's truth, accountability, and honesty is the way to release that healing process. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. I think that is the best way that we can heal. Is we have to really be when we can be honest with ourselves, we can release those things that hinder us, right? A lot of times we overlook what we're angry about or what upset us or was keeping us in that negative loop. So we really need to be honest about it and get to the root of it so you can just get rid of it. Because once you face it, you can let it go.
Yeah, and I think that pathway, when you have that honesty, and then you're truthful about who you are, and then you take accountability for how you've been and what you've done, but in a positive way. I don't want you to dwell. I don't want the audience to dwell on the negative part of it.
No.
You got to release that. You got to let
Right.
that go. It happened. I know you don't want to forget. You sometimes you want to stay mad at somebody. I remember talking to a person, just trying to get them into a positive mindset, and they had some issues with their partner. And I talked to her, and she was like, "Well, I want to stay mad at him." And again, that's okay, but that's a choice. But keeping that anger in you, it just
Poison in you.
resonates, and whatever you put into you is what's going to pour out of you. So if you
Right.
still have that hate and that negativity towards that person, you might not think about it. You think it's just for that person, but that negativity and that hate comes out on other people also.
Exactly, because you become bitter. It becomes bitter. You fester it. You hold on to it, and it can be the smallest of things that can, just bring that memory back, and the other person really doesn't have anything to do with it. So why bring that kind of energy in that surrounding?
Right.
So
It's kind
yeah,
of like you can't move forward. And we're in this process to make sure that you move forward, to give you another way, an alternative way to think about carrying out yourself and when you're ready to go into a new relationship. But I stayed on this topic longer because it is very important, because you have to change when you're changing your mind. You also have to think positive. You also have to give yourself that grace and mercy. You have to be truthful. But now it becomes the next step from there is now we got to reprogram your
Right.
mind.
Right.
And I know you're shaking your head. So, how are some ways that what are you going about to reprogram your mind to get you out of that rut that you've been in, where you're not negative about even looking into another relationship? And I'm gonna just say this. I'm gonna just say this, Harlem Brown, because I think I need to. I'm only taking you through this series because if you don't work on yourself first and get yourself to a place of comfort, peace, if you don't have peace within yourself, I don't see how you can move forward to try to even attempt to be in any kind of relationship.
That's very true.
So I want to take the audience through this journey, and I know I keep going back, but I want to make sure that we understand that this is a pathway. It's a marathon. It's not a I'm gonna fix you today by listening to my podcast, because
Right.
I mean, some of the things that you can fix today, you can start working on today, but it takes time because you've built up a lot of callous. You've built up a lot of anger. Built up a lot of animosity, and the way that you think about relationships and the way that you go about relationships. I think you know what's crazy. I was talking to somebody the other day, and the way that we go about relationships, the way people go about relationships after they've been in one, is what they not gonna do in the next relationship.
Yes.
Ain't it crazy? Ain't that crazy? It's gonna be like, I'm not doing this, I ain't taking that, I ain't doing this, I ain't doing that. And to me, that starts out on a negative path. What do
It
you
does.
think about that?
It does. It's funny that you should say that because there are, and I'm sure somebody listening has probably seen this on a dating app or something, where you're supposed to put in your best self, right, as your introduction. And a lot of people are like, I don't want somebody who looks like this. I'm not going to deal with you not texting me back. I'm not. And so if I'm somebody who's scrolling through, I'm not swiping to talk to you because you already set your rules on what you're not going to do.
Yeah,
So like I'm just going to fit into this peg of what you accept, and if I don't fit into that circle of what you accept, then I'm not valuable. So if you can't accept the whole me, then what's
yeah,
the point of even trying? So you're right. A lot of people who have been in relationships come out of those relationships thinking, I don't even want to be. But I've had girlfriends who's like, I'm not gonna be bothered with that. I'll just get a dog. It's
yeah.
like, okay, but a human being probably would be a little bit more compatible. Um, I don't know. I do think that we have to change our minds, the way that we think about relationships, because just because somebody didn't handle you right or you didn't handle someone else right, it doesn't mean that you can't start over. There's always room to start over. There's always room for improvement. There's always time to make positive choices. Talk to For me, when you said, how do I change my mind from negative to positive, is basically I'm a Christian woman. I read my Bible, I journal. um I love a good script. Like if I find a scripture that touches my heart, I'll write it down on a post-it, put it up. Something that just uplifts me in any kind of, it could be a song, I could listen to music. There's just a lot of things that you have to start thinking about what you're feeding yourself, because that's also a part of it. Like you can be feeding yourself sad love songs, and all of a sudden it's just like,
Right,
that's why I
right,
don't want to, that's why I'm not like, you
right.
can't do that. You got to constantly feed yourself positivity and have a brighter outlook. Like, don't think going in that it's going to fail. Like, go in with a positive attitude, being 100% you, just knowing this is what I bring to the table. And when we do be honest about our situations and taking responsibility for stuff, we're more likely to give the other person grace when they don't
Yeah,
do
absolutely.
exactly
And that
what
brings us
we
to
think that they
yeah,
need to do.
exactly. And that brings us to our third point. We had already talked about becoming self-aware. We talked about healing. And now what we're going to get in tonight is programming and reprogramming your mind to think differently. And that's that transformation of your mind. And how do we do that? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. How do
Right.
we do that, late bloomer? Well, I'm gonna tell you because this is a heart to heart journey to unconditional love. So we're gonna have that heart to heart conversation. Now you might not like it, but we got to have that heart to heart because the honest and the truth that comes out of this only can make you better and make you stronger. So
Yeah.
the first thing I'm gonna say is you got to replace those negative thoughts with positive affirmations.
Yeah.
You have to. You cannot again don't go into the next relationship going to saying what you're not going to do. You can't go in, well, if he don't do this when I say this, or if she don't do this when I do this, and if I see the reaction and it ain't what I think it should be, then I'm out. You're already setting yourself up for failure, or you're already setting yourself up to be by yourself.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's why I say if you fix yourself before you even get to the point where you want to date and talk to somebody, then you would have already had that in your life. And one of the things that I say a lot is if you change your words, it changes your heart.
Hmm.
So the words that come out your mouth changes your heart follows. So if you bring in all positive stuff in your heart pours out and it spills out into others,
Yeah.
But if you always F that, I be this Negro, this, that, and you got all that, it's not going to work. You're going to have an relationship. And you don't want that. You want peace. You want joy. You want happiness.
Right.
And I think the one thing that a lot of people don't realize is that they control their happiness. They control their
Yeah.
happiness. They control how they react to anything that happens. They
Yeah.
can control their mind to make sure that they are doing these positive thinkings, having positive affirmations and things like that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, what do you think about that? Give me your thoughts on giving the audience something tangible to work on and how they can obtain replacing those negative thoughts with positive affirmations.
I'm a I'm a post-it person, right? So I like to write little things on post-its. Or I'll take a picture of something positive that I've seen on my phone and I'll keep it as a screensaver, right? Just to remind me of this particular positive saying, a verse. Sometimes I can hear a verse in a song. I love to listen to the words of music, and I might hear something positive in that and be like, "Oh, I need to jot that down." I'm also big on like I like to have things repeated to me in different venues, right? So I'll write it down. I'll have it as a post-it.
Well,
I'll
let's
have it
hold
on my
on before
phone.
you
I'll
even go there.
do it
Let's
with
go. Let
Alexa to
b- b-
repeat it to me. I'm just one of those people who just keep pouring it in, right? I just
yeah.
need positive
Before
things.
you even go there, let's go back to the songs because nowadays those songs don't have no love in it.
No.
They're talking about I'm gonna get you, I'm gonna smash you, I'm gonna do this, and they say the other words, but
Right.
there's no love. I don't see the love in those songs like the songs that we had with Earth, Wind, and Fire and DeBarge. You know what I mean? And
It's
people like
nothing
that.
like the old school love songs that that definitely gave you a sense of somebody wanting you and belonging instead of just like, okay,
Yeah,
get
I'm gonna
out of here.
smash
Like
you, and if you don't want me, I'm gonna go to your friend. And I'm like, yo, and again, that's I don't mind that type of that's the generation, and that's what they doing.
right,
I love what they do. That's fine, but when you're talking about love, and when you're talking about the love songs, like you said, when you listen to a love song, most of the times you have to go back to the old school because they were writing more from the heart than
right,
writing from the head. Because I think
right,
right now they're writing from the head, and it might be again that's the stuff that they put in their mouths, so that's what's coming out of their heart,
right.
and it's hardcore. it's not
And
it's
that's
not
why you have to
sensual.
have those positive things around you. You have to have something that's feeding you, that's
Yeah,
that's giving you the peace that you want, right? I can't listen to songs that's that's telling me differently. Like this is what we're gonna this is what you're doing, this is what you're doing. Not even a relationship when you hook up, right? So
Yeah.
I can't listen to the hookup music because I'm
Right.
not trying to hook up,
Yeah.
right? So I
Yeah.
think that's a good point when we're listening to music, even some of the stuff that people read, like understand what you're feeding yourself, because you're feeding yourself something that you might, that's what you attract, right? Whatever
Yeah.
you pouring out your mouth is what you're going to attract.
Absolutely.
So, and I know that, seeking love and seeking relationship and seeking peace within yourself and all of that requires a lot of thought about what your expectations are,
Mhm.
what you think,
Mhm.
what you think is supposed to happen in these relationships, because you may be with somebody who doesn't think the same way, or you might be looking at somebody who doesn't think the same way. But as
Mhm.
long as you're grounded in you, you'll be okay. It's okay. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
It's okay. So we
Yeah.
have to stop fantasizing about what love can be, because it's not necessarily a Hallmark channel, you know, love story. A lot of times there are some things that you need to learn to grow with
And put
someone.
the
You need
work
to
in.
learn how
Yeah.
to um just make sure that you're equipped within yourself and strong enough within yourself to be able to grow with somebody else and be able to give somebody else grace and be patient and be calm.
Yeah, and that leads me to my next point. So when you're replacing your negative thoughts with positive affirmations, you also want to surround yourself with positive people. Because if again, you get your girls, you get your boys, and you say, "Yo, whatever," they'll be like, "Yeah, they treated you wrong, they treated you bad." But you want to have somebody that's positive, not so much a yes person, but a person that is going to be truthful and honest with you, and
Right.
hold you accountable for the way that you are and the things that you're saying and what's coming out your mouth and the attitude that you have.
Right.
Always, it's your outlook determines your output. And if you're looking at things in a negative way, that's the output that you're going to get most of the time, because that's what it's going to attract. But if
Right.
you have positiveness, you always see it. And I like to pride myself of being a positive person. I always smile. People are like, wow, you always smile. You can't be that happy. And you can, but you
You
can
can.
because I'm choosing to be happy. I could have the worst time of my life. And for a fact, the last year has been the worst of
Hard.
my whole entire life. But I kept smiling. And
Right.
I ain't gonna tell you that it wasn't a few days that frowned or whatever, but the majority of times when I was out in the public and you seen me, I was smiling because I chose to be happy. I chose to smile because I know it was going to bring more positive to me to eliminate the negative that happened in my life.
Right.
You know what I mean? So expanding on that point, when you surround yourself around positive people, you still have to be kind to yourself, and you have to give yourself grace and mercy.
Absolutely.
So combination of all that, while we program and reprogram our minds differently so that we can have that transformation of our mind to start thinking more positively, you'll see that you'll feel better. You'll see that you used to slump, but now you're sitting up and
Yeah.
you're attentive. You'll see that you're more attentive to people, you're more attentive to yourself, and you're more attentive to the surroundings around you. So this mind thing covers a whole lot of territory, and that's why I wanted to start this series on the mind when you're talking about relationships, because if we don't start with the mind to get our mind right, we can't be right for anybody else, and we can't be right for ourselves.
Right. And like you said, it's a choice. You have
Yeah.
to choose that this is what you want.
Yeah. So moving on to that, I'm gonna like kind of expand on that forgiveness and all of
Mm.
this. Um, that has to come before you can release the experiences that you have, that you hold on to, that you're
Right.
mad about.
That's true.
Forgiveness. You got to train your mind to help you forgive not only others but yourself, because a lot of times we go through relationships. We like, yeah, I could have did this. It was my fault. It was this. Yeah, you're giving yourself accountability, but it takes two to tango. It's what my dad used to always tell me.
Mm-hmm.
There's not one person that is just the sole responsible for a relationship. It takes two. Now, I
Right.
know there's some people who are mean and terrible and just treat people and nasty, whatever, and I get that, But at the same time, you know, when you're looking at yourself, please forgive yourself, program your mind to forgive yourself. And I'm gonna lean on you, Harlem Brown, for this because let's give the audience something tangible to take back with them about what are ways that we can learn and practice forgiving, not only others but ourselves.
Forgiving ourselves is one of the biggest. I think you have to start with yourself, right? Once you start forgiving yourself, and forgiving yourself means I saw this, I did this, this happened, I've learned better now. I'm turning away from it. So I'm going to do better going forward. But you can't hold on to I hear a lot of people constantly like beat themselves up, like, oh, that was just so stupid. I shouldn't have never. But at the end of the day, you didn't know better. If you had known better, you'd have did better, right? You didn't know what the outcome would have been. So you can't hold yourself to that outcome. What you need to do is just forgive yourself in that. You can ask for forgiveness. I always say ask for forgiveness. Don't just be like, yeah, I'm sorry. Like, could you please forgive me? Because that was a little bit, that was too much. But ask for forgiveness and also be able to forgive the people who don't even apologize, right? That's
Yeah,
one thing we have to do. We also have to learn about
that's hard.
when we do forgive ourselves. There's
That's
things that
hard.
people have done and we're holding them accountable because they don't have any remorse for what they've done. But
Yeah,
at the end of the day, I have to still forgive that. I have to forgive the apology that I never received. And that's a hard one, but it's one that when you get to the other side of that, that is so
yeah.
much peace in
So
that
rewarding.
because you have released that person. You're holding people in your mind and in your head that has gone on with their lives,
Yeah.
and you're the one who's suffering because you're holding unforgiveness, and unforgiveness is something you should
Right.
never ever hold on to because
And it was crazy.
it hurts you.
The other person is moving on, and
Right. It
you
hurts
stuck
you.
where you
You're
at.
the one suffering.
Yeah,
You're the one sitting in silos suffering. And
yeah,
every time somebody mentions this person or talk about this person, you're
yeah,
the one with the
yeah.
attitude while they're telling you, oh yeah, they went to whatever and they're doing this and they're doing this. So why do you need to suffer? You've been through that already. So let
Yeah.
it go. Like
Yeah.
just
Don't compound it.
yes.
Yeah, don't compound it. So moving on from that, so after we give that forgiveness, um, we got to be willing to take ownership and accountability for the triggers and actions
Oh yeah.
that come with this. And
Oh,
triggers are who when you
those
hear that person's name, just your whole demeanor changes. When you
yes.
see something similar to what the person has done to you, trigger, boom, you just change. With just it's just like, and it's not. What's crazy is those triggers and that change is instant, and it's like and it's not even like you thinking about it and be like, no, it's like I see it, I know what it looks like. Oh, he, she, oh my God, if I could, ooh. So that
I've been
forgiveness,
through this before. I know exactly what's going to happen after this. But you
exactly,
don't because that's a different person. Like you know
exactly,
what happened in the story from the past, but you don't know the story of your future, right?
right,
So yeah, there may be a lot of people do similar things, but not with the same motive, right? Not with the same intent, the ending intent. So we have to learn that this is a whole different person. If that's a trigger for you, how about just talk about it? Say, hey, you know what? I was a little bit in my feelings the other day when I didn't get a response, a response, or um, not even. But I also want to make this very clear. Like, don't you? The trigger is a comparison. problem, right? That's a comparison issue.
Yeah.
But it's not for you to, don't compare people with people. Give everybody a fresh start. Give them a chance. Give them a chance until proven wrong, right?
Yeah.
So you don't do that. I just feel like a lot of times when we go through things and we get triggered, we're like, yeah, that, everybody does that. Everybody doesn't do that.
Yeah.
And everybody, and even if they do it, it's not for the same reason, right? If
But I'm gonna
somebody doesn't
expand
text
on
you
that.
back in 2 seconds, doesn't mean that they're mad at you. They could be busy.
Yeah. But
There
I'm
could
gonna
be
expand
something else
on that.
going on.
I'm gonna expand on that. You know why? Because we always say, I'm over it. Oh, it don't bother me. It don't bother. That's the trigger to know that you are still bothered. So
Right.
please recognize that. If you say, oh, that don't bother me no more, the fact that you had to acknowledge that it doesn't bother you is the trigger that's still in your mind.
Because you're trying
Reprogram
to
that.
convince yourself that it doesn't bother you anymore. You're
Exactly.
not convincing me, you're convincing yourself.
Exactly. So reprogram your mind to think and to say and to really truly be over it. And an intangible way to be over it is talk about it. Talk about it. Say it bothers you. Say I'm still not over it. And here are the steps and here are the things that I'm doing to try to get over it. Don't try, but here are the things that I'm doing to get over it. And that's
Right.
going to help you, it's going to help catapult you to overcome those triggers, overcome those actions that sets you off and changes your demeanor when you're on a path to doing unconditional love, on that journey to unconditional love. So I think that's real important key. I'm gonna move on to the third one, and that third one is take the time to be better. Invest in yourself and take control of yourself. So again, take the time to be better. Like, I'm going to work on this. Invest in yourself, bet on yourself,
Right.
and take control of yourself. And again, how do you take control of yourself? With your mind, reprogramming your mind, thinking about it, talking about it. Community is one thing that I wanted to put in there. It's okay to have a community because God didn't put us on earth to be by ourselves.
No.
So it's okay to if you have to join a group, it's okay. Don't don't be ashamed of things that you're going through because you could be a blessing to somebody else.
Right.
And you can help somebody else that may not, that you might say something and say, this is what I'm working on, I'm going through it. And that might help them want to talk about it, want to open up about it, want to be there about it. And I think it's so key. And I know we're getting out of time. I hate when we get out of time, but but I want to expand on that because it's important for you to know that surrounding yourself by positive people, surrounding yourself with a community that is pouring into you, but
Yes.
you have to invest in yourself first before you can think others want to invest in you. What do you think about that?
I think that's an excellent point. You do need to invest in yourself. Books. If you like to read, get some self-help books. Listen to podcasts like this. Um, Go and just explore small groups. Sometimes they have small groups of singles that just get together just to talk. That's always a good outing as well. But also, I love the fact when you said invest in yourself because you definitely have to invest in yourself and definitely get into a really good community, right? Be around your friends who will actually tell you the truth, right?
Yeah.
Not your I want to be your friends or whatever you say is great. Be around the people who be like, yeah, that wasn't cool. Like,
But not
mm-mm.
even that. Be around your friends that are not going to put more fuel into the
Oh yeah.
negativity.
Don't be around
That's
those.
the main one.
You
Because
don't
they
want
be like,
those.
yeah, because he and she and and you like, I'm trying to move on.
Right,
And that's the key. Move on.
right.
Move
Moving forward.
on. I'm not telling you to, again, this is a marathon. I'm not telling you to just forget about everything in one day. I'm telling you, as you're thinking and reprogramming yourself, you're going to see that stuff is going to slowly be like, oh, you ain't going to even remember that it happened.
Right.
You like, or how it affected you. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And
They
I'm
will
so mad I
dissipate
gotta
after
go.
a
Any
while.
last words you want to say about today's topic? Because I think this is great. So we gotta have another mind your business. We gotta finish this. We gotta finish this. But what's your last words you want to say to the audience today, Harlem Brown?
Just remember this, like you said, this is not a sprint. This is a marathon. And always have grace. Keep grace on yourself, because there's going to be times where you think you got it and you don't, right? So it's not a time to give up. It is a time to push even harder, because these are more things that are coming out. These are more of the triggers, more of the things that you thought that you had that had dissipated, but still there's a little bit of trace there. And just continue to work and keep pushing hard at it, because I believe that if you really really commit to this and you choose to do this, you can be it can be amazing.
Oh man, that's great. I love those words that you said. So we got to get out of here. It's been great again. I love these conversations. I thank you for being my co-host.
I love
You're
it.
doing great. As we in all podcasts, trying to do something will keep you in the same place. But when you actually do something, your place has no limitations. I am Delay Bloomer, my co-host Harlem Brown, and we'll
Yes,
see you next week.
see you next week.